Hi, Sherryman Recap here. Hi, Visual Recaps here.
Before we start, warning. Spoilers ahead. Today, I'm gonna explain a psychological thriller movie from 2018 called Greta. Starring Chloe Grace Moretz, the film starts in New York City where a young waitress, Frances McCullen, is going home with a subway when she finds a black handbag which belongs to Greta Hittig. At first she hesitates, but then she decides to bring the bag home. She lives with her best friend, named Erica, who suggests taking the money inside the bag, but she refuses. Later, they decide to watch a movie in the cinema, which makes Frances emotional as she used to go there with her mom, who had just passed away a year ago. Her relationship with her father, Chris, is not very good as he has already moved on and buries himself in work. Following the address in the bag, Frances travels to Greta's house the next day to return the bag. Greta thanks her for returning the bag and invites Frances to have a drink inside. In the house, she hears some strange pounding noises coming from a wall behind the piano, but Greta claims that it's her neighbor reconstructing. Frances then discovers that Greta's husband, Christoph, has passed away and her daughter, Nicola, is in Paris. The two women form a quick bond based solely on their pain and loneliness. Frances then suggests Greta to adopt a new puppy for support, but Greta refuses as she is still hung up on her previous dog. Before leaving, Frances leaves her phone number in case Greta changes her mind. It doesn't take long as Greta calls Frances to take her up on a dog. The next morning, they decide to adopt an old dog and named him Morton. From here, they become closer and spend more time together. Erica asks Frances to go to a party with her, but she refuses and states that she is having dinner with Greta. Annoyed, Erica then accuses her of using Greta as replacement for her mother, which makes Frances furious. Frances goes over to Greta's home for dinner. Their seemingly innocent friendship takes a sinister turn when Greta asks Frances to grab a candle in a cabinet. She opens the wrong one, making a startling discovery. Multiple identical handbags with the exact same contents inside every one of them. One has a sticky note with the number of a woman named Samantha Bale while the other bag contains a sticky note written with her own name on it. Meaning that Greta has been purposely leaving the bag in the subway to lure people into her life. The young girl then becomes uncomfortable with the dinner and asks to leave the house immediately. Hoping that Greta will simply go away, Frances isn't so lucky as Greta begins to terrorize her with abundant messages, but she manages to ignore the text. The old lady then shows up at the restaurant where Frances works, forcing Greta to tell the truth about the handbag's finding and not wanting to be part of the crazy game Greta has planned. She also tells Greta that she never wants to see her again. Greta continues to stalk Frances more aggressively, standing outside the restaurant for hours and creepily staring at her from across the street. Feeling threatened, she calls the police but he refuses to arrest her as she hasn't shown any indication that she will attack. Greta also attempts to meet Frances in a subway, but Frances reacts fast and manages to escape. Things only get more frightening when Greta turns her stalking attention to Erica, sending pictures of her at the exact location to Frances. Frances then calls Erica and urges her to immediately get away from wherever she is. The madwoman continues to send Frances pictures to show that she is getting closer and closer to Erica, who somehow doesn't see her despite the picture being like right behind her. Fortunately, Erica manages to outmaneuver Greta and spots the cab Frances is in. She then joins her and they successfully escape from Greta. Worried by the adopted dog's safety, Frances attempts to seek into the old woman's house. As she digs through the trash for anything she can find on her, she discovers that her daughter, Nicola, is not actually in Paris. She then tries to get in touch with Nicola. Later on, Frances meets Alexa Hammond, Nicola's ex-girlfriend, who explains that Nicola has committed suicide 4 years earlier and had never been to Paris. She also states that Greta is a very ill woman and reveals that the old lady is actually Hungarian. Things get worse when Greta returns to the restaurant, who made a reservation. The lady insists that she only wants to talk, but later goes wild, smashing the wine glass and yelling that their meeting is destiny and her mother had to die for them to meet. The crazy woman flips over the table and starts advancing towards Frances. Greta is then restrained by staff as the police arrive and take the woman away. However, Frances discovers that Greta has been released the next day. Erica suggests a plan to lie to Greta by staying with her father for a while. Hoping that this would be enough for Greta to leave her alone, she then agrees with the plan and decides to meet Greta and tells her that she is going away for a while. Greta then gives her an uncomfortably long hug. Later, Frances is having a drink in her home when she starts to feel dizzy. Unfortunately, the coffee had been drugged and Greta suddenly shows up, punishing Frances for supposedly lying about going away. Greta drags the poor Frances back to her lovely gingerbread house, locking her in a toy box. Apparently, the kidnapping was just a dream. Frances wakes up and finds Erica in the apartment with her. She then tells Frances to pack up because her dad is already waiting for her downstairs. She then goes to the elevator to leave, But suddenly the elevator appears to be going lower than the bottom floor and the walls start closing in. Actually, meeting Erica and Chris was a dream. Frances is really locked in a toy box and she now really wakes up, screaming to be let out. Greta grants her request, then grabs her phone and leaves her again trapped in the room. The phone is used to make Erica believe that she is on vacation with her father, while also making Chris think that she is on vacation with Erica. Due to this, Frances is kept hostage by Greta for weeks with no one looking for her. On one afternoon while they are making cookies together, Frances finds an opportunity and attempts to attack Greta by slamming a rolling pin down which ends up severing her finger, also followed by a slam into her head. She runs to find an escape, but all are well locked, sending her down to the basement where she finds a bag containing a body of dying Samantha Bale. Greta then finds Frances and suffocates her until passed out. Greta then brings her back to the room behind the piano and ties her to the bed. Chris goes to visit the girls in the apartment and is welcomed by Erica. At that moment, they both realize that something is not right. He then speaks to Detective Brian Cody to help find Frances. Cody pulls up files on Greta, revealing that she used to be a nurse and dismissed for misuse of anesthetics. Cody finds Greta's home and meets the madwoman. She then invites her to go in and have a chat. Realizing that someone else is within the house, Frances tries to make her presence known by banging on the bed and making the pendulum on the piano start ticking. Greta claims that the sound was made by her dog and she goes upstairs to shut the dog. Exploring the house, Cody is very close to finding the hidden room, but Greta suddenly appears and injects sedatives in his neck, causing him paralyzed on the floor. He attempts to shoot with his gun, but misses. Greta then grabs the gun and shoots Cody to death. She dumps his body into a bag, adding some chemicals to his face, and throws him to the basement. Greta then shows up in the subway to find her next victim. A young woman with curly brown hair takes the bait and arrives at the house to give back the bag. As they chat, the pendulum starts ticking again, indicating that Frances is making sound again. Greta then steps away for a moment to shut the neighbor, as she said to the new girl, and returns to have her coffee. Suddenly, she starts to feel disoriented and falls off to the ground. Surprisingly, the woman then pulls off her wig and reveals herself to be Erica, having been waiting in the subway for a while until she found the handbag. As Greta faints, Frances continues banging on the bed to help Erica find her position. Erica manages to pull the piano back and successfully frees Frances from her agony. As Erica tries to help her friend out, music starts playing, indicating that Greta is still lurking around. But as Frances steps out, Greta grabs her by the throat and says that she was her favorite one. Greta then passes out. The girls then decide to place the madwoman into the toy box and lock it with an Eiffel Tower trinket. As they leave, Greta slowly starts bumping the lid of the box, slowly moving the trinket out. Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for